Welcome to the futurist public intellectual. Even after the pandemic has winded down, Florida continues to stay in the news. On March 28, 2022, Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Parental Rights in Education Act into law, commencing a controversial new era in the culture wars. This law has also been given the moniker "Don't Say Gay" law by its detractors. The crucial text of this law states that classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. A couple of months ago, the Florida Board of Education voted to expand the restrictions to all public school students from kindergarten to 12th grade. As to be expected, when DeSantis signed the law, President Joe Biden reacted in a predictable fashion by tweeting, quote, "Every student deserves to feel safe and welcome in the classroom. Our LGBTQI+ youth deserve to be affirmed and accepted just as they are. My administration will continue to fight for dignity and opportunity for every student and family in Florida and around the country." Let's unravel this confusing issue. DeSantis has stated that he's trying to empower parents to ensure that their children are getting an education, not an indoctrination. According to DeSantis, teaching materials like the genderbread person poster have been used in Florida classrooms. Depending on which grades that poster was used in, I can see why conservative parents would feel uncomfortable with teachers discussing androgyny and intersex people with their 6-year-olds. These are psychological and medical concepts that even adults struggle to comprehend. It's reasonable to think that such topics might be best reserved for the parents to broach. What liberals don't understand is that if the tables were turned and there was a strong movement towards teaching creationism instead of evolution in public schools, they would rightfully use the democratic process to prevent that from happening. What would be the motivation for blocking the teaching of creationism? It certainly wouldn't be a desire to have a diversity of viewpoints represented, despite the lip service paid to inclusivity. The real reason would be because they want their children to learn a particular worldview. Guess what? That is exactly the same reason the conservatives want to block the teaching of sexual orientation and gender identity in public schools. BGLQT identities are not material realities. They are social constructions. As such, they are influenced by the culture in which they're constructed. This law empowers parents to control the narrative. It's just that when it's the conservatives who want to have the power to shape the minds of their children, it's somehow unacceptable. The liberals can't complain when conservatives democratically elect representatives who implement a conservative worldview in their public schools. Now, if it was a religious worldview that the conservatives were trying to implement, then that would be different. The liberals could argue that that would be a form of establishment of state religion. However, simply not wanting children to be exposed to BGLQT material is not exactly religious. Many parents legitimately do not feel comfortable with exposing their children to sexual matters, even though at a certain age, that might be encouraging too much ignorance. Biden's tweet about affirmation and acceptance is misleading because when the law was signed in March 2022, it only applied to kindergartners through third graders. Do 5 to 8-year-olds have sexual orientations and gender identities that need to be affirmed and accepted? Do these children not feel safe and welcome in the classroom because the genderbread person poster has been banned? It's very confusing what exactly the liberal perspective is regarding children. They seem to be treating children, regardless of age, as mini adults. The left clearly needs to take a course in developmental psychology. One important thing to mention here is that Team DeSantis might be playing for the wrong team. According to a 2022 University of Florida poll of Floridian voters, 49% strongly or somewhat disapproved of the Parental Rights in Education Act, and 40% somewhat or strongly approved. Without a clear majority supporting this law, DeSantis is politically playing a risky game. Even if he ends up appealing to the national conservative voter base as a whole, he still risks alienating a significant chunk of Floridians. Thank you for listening to The Futurist Public Intellectual.